Okay, is it audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, all of you. Now we will start the next one, that is 11th unit. Okay. Okay, here in this next unit, that is 11th unit, one is the counseling. There are different ways of counseling. One is group counseling and individual counseling. So when we will take this counseling, like individual counseling, maybe group counseling, is there particular cases or any particular situations when we have to take this counseling in both like group counseling as well as the individual counseling. Here in the group counseling, one important thing is that if there is any issue related to some of the group members, okay, some individuals, they form a group, so that if there is any common problem with all these individuals in a group, then we will do this group counseling. Okay, so here in the group counseling, the issue should be a common issue. One issue that is common to all the group members. So those sort of issues we will choose in the group counseling. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Here in the group counseling, there are some techniques, some strategies we have to choose. We have to apply in the group counseling. One is the formation of the group first. Forming a group, formation of the group. In the group formation, we have to see that one important common issue in that group counseling. Okay, that is number one. Second thing is that after completion of your group counseling, they need to identify one important thing, that is, that is whether they have their common issue in all the group members. That is most important thing.
Can you repeat the second point?
Common issue, common problem of the group members. For example, any alcoholic issues are there, like addiction of alcohol or any substance abuse. So that is a common problem of all the 10 or 15 members of the group. So better to identify this issue as a common issue of all the group members. Okay. Then in this formation of the group, second one is that completion of the group formation. Then involvement stage, all the group members, they are supposed to involve in the counseling process. First one is formation of the group. How we form the group means we need to identify a common problem of all the group members. That is number one. Number two is that involvement stage. First one is the formation of the group. Second is the involvement. All the group members, actually they are supposed to involve in the counseling process. Yeah. Then another one is that if they involve in the counseling process, next one is transitional stage. So formation of the group is a common issue should be there in all the group members. As I told you, some addiction issue. The problem is with the substance abuse, you can say, maybe alcoholic addiction, or you can say the drug addiction. Okay. So if you form a group, that is another important stage is that involvement of all the group members in the group. Okay. So how they involve in the group means active listening, active participation in the counseling process. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if they involve in the counseling, for example, if it is a alcohol addiction, or you can say substance abuse, or any issue related to their addiction. So here in this process of active involvement in the group members, we need to explain what are the consequences of this problem, or you can say addiction. What are the main consequences of this issue? We have to explain. If they want to involve in the group, the consequences, if we explain to the group members, automatically they will actively listen and actively involve in the counseling process. Got it? So here, for example, the consequence may be financial consequences, consequence of their health, negative consequence of their family, negative consequence of their personal and the social issues. Yeah. So if you explain all this, one more thing you can explain here, ABC model. As I told you, ABC model. The ABC model is the activated events, belief system, and the consequences. For example, if they believe that this sort of addiction, like taking some cigarettes per day, taking alcohol, they'll think that their belief system is that by taking up all these cigarettes or any other alcohol, they think that some sort of relief in their stressful condition. This is not actual system of stress relief. If they want to relieve from the stress, there are some other techniques, other methods of stress-related solutions. But they wrongly believe, they negatively believe that by taking off some 10 cigarettes or 15 cigarettes per day, and whenever they tense, whenever they have stressful condition, they will consume some quantity of alcohol. That is their belief system. So here, they wrongly, natively they believe, and they will do these activities. ABC model is that, no? Activated event, belief system, and consequences. Here, C is the consequences. Here, we, as a psychologist, as a counselor in the counseling process, we have to explain the negative consequence of these activities or this behavior, so that they will involve in the process of counseling. As I mentioned, consequences may be the financial consequences, consequences may be health consequences, consequences may be in their family issues. So they need to face these negative consequences if they do these activities. That is called ABC model. So here, if they involve in the process of counseling, actively involved in the counseling process, what is the next stage? They may be in a position to change their behavior. That is transition period, or you can say transitional stage, or you can say stage of change, transition stage. Transition stage, you can say. First one is the forming of a group. Second is involvement of the group, or you can say involvement stage. Third is the transition stage. So they wanted to stop their habit of taking alcohol or any other substance. Okay, then working stage. So if they want to change, if they want to modify this behavior, so what is the next one? Hello. Yes. Sorry for the interruption. This is HOD's phone. Okay. Hello.
Sir.
Yes, sir, we are
Sir,
can you repeat the third stage? Sir?
First one is formation, stage of formation.
Yes, sir.
Second is
Involvement. Okay.
third is the stage of transition, or you can say change stage.
Third is transaction
Okay.
stage. Fourth is working stage.
Fourth is the working stage.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. Got it?
Okay, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
So in the working stage, actually, they want to change their behavior. They want to change their habit of taking the alcohol, any other substance. They need to work on this. That is known as the working stage. Okay. So working on this, or you can say implement of whatever the counseling process in their daily life activities. Yeah. So that is known as the working stage. Working stage means they need to apply what are the counseling procedures, what are the therapeutical procedures. If you intimate to the, if you train the client or individual, so they will work on this. As I mentioned, one example I have given, ABC model. So we will explain ABC model in the third stage or in the second stage, some stages. That means when they are involved in the counseling process, we will explain these are the consequences you have to face if you continue the same type of problematic behavior.
So then what's the difference between third stage and fourth stage? If it
Sir, can you please explain about transaction stage?
Transition stage is nothing but changing. So they from their side, they'll improve their insight so that they'll take a decision to change. You're talking about the difference between the third and fourth, no?
Yes, sir.
Stage
Because transition
to change, transition from their mind. So
okay.
their insight will be improved.
It's like taking a decision that they want to change.
Yeah, that is a decision making, or you can say.
Okay.
Then fourth one is the implementation stage, you can say.
Okay.
Planning and implementation, or you can say planning and execution.
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah. So that is the working stage. So this is a crucial stage. Third and fourth stage are the because they need to take the decision of changing their behavior. Okay. And then execution, or you can say implementation of that, they decide. Here the counselor's part, here the professional part is major part. They plays a vital role in this fourth stages. Like the third stage, many stages. Initially, formation of a group also, the major part will be there. Involvement of the all group members. Transitional stage, working stage, then ending stage.
Sir, ask everyone to mute themselves, sir. Or you
Please
can
mute all of you, please.
Yes.
Mute yourself, please. Then fifth stage is the ending stage. Fifth is the ending stage. So of completion of your group counseling, you have to sum up this, whatever the procedure of your counseling. Okay. If there is any feedback from any member of the group, you need to take that feedback also. Then sum up of the or conclusion of the counseling procedures, counseling techniques, or counseling therapies. What are the therapies? What are the techniques we apply in this particular group counseling? That is final stage is that we have to conclude that by giving some type of homework. Generally, we will give some homework in the counseling process. For example, if it is a 6 sessions counseling, after completion of first and second, after rapid establishment or after completion of this counseling first session or second session, but third and fourth session, you will give some homeworks. Okay, so after giving that work, because from your side you have already given that some therapeutical procedures, but that is the other side part. That is a part of, there's a role of client to follow your guidelines, to follow your therapeutical procedures. So this is the ending stage. Generally, we ask them to do these activities to change their problematic behaviors. Okay, so these are the stages of the counseling, in group counseling. Okay, then there are some strategies, there are some techniques we use in the group counseling. One is the active listening. One technique is the active listening of all the other members in the group. For example, for a group of 10 or 15 members, first of all, as a therapist, as a psychologist, we need to listen the issues of the members. Okay, then if there is any clarification needed from both sides, okay, so the clarification also we are supposed to give clarification. Sometimes the client may not be in a position to explain his issues or share his emotions or her emotions. Okay, here in this case, active listening from the therapist side, or you can say encourage the client, encourage the patient, or encourage the individual to share his emotions or her emotions. Okay, means encouraging the client to share their emotions or feelings, you can say, in order to change their behavior. Some emotional issues also may be there from the other side, from the client side. As a therapist, as a counselor, as a psychologist, that is our responsibility to encourage the client to express their emotions. Okay, so while they express their emotions, you need to focus, or you need to be attentive on listening of their issue. That is known as active listening. Okay. Any doubt here in this? Active listening?
Sir,
Yeah.
active listening should be done by the psychiatrist or by all the group members, sir?
All the group members. Same way, both sides. Active listening from the that is client side, but mainly here in my context, active listening of the therapist, the psychologist.
Therapist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. If there is any
Okay,
clarification needed from the group members, so that clarification also we are supposed to do.
all the group members should be participate in one group or at one place, sir?
One place. Generally, in the psychiatric setups, for example, I'll give some examples also. In general, in this rehabilitation centers.
Yes, sir.
Support group. Are
Yeah,
these like
yes.
support group?
Yes.
Okay.
Support group, of course, it is support group is one type of group. Support group within the group members, that's support group. Here in the
So mostly this
de-addiction centers.
rehabilitation center.
De-addiction
Yes, sir.
centers. In de-addiction centers, we have so many de-addiction centers in the city. in other area, other parts of our state. De-addiction centers especially. Even the rehabilitation centers. Maybe it need not be a de-addiction center, but some other centers also. Group counseling is needed. For example, large group is there. With the same the main objective of group is the common problem. We need to address a common problem of that group members. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Here in this case, one important thing is that empathy also we have to show. The empathy, all the group members. Empathy means not only one or two. Here in the individual counseling, somehow it's different. But in group members, they need to have their emotional attachment to the client, to the therapist. That means they must have that confidentiality and confident on the counseling process. So it is when it is possible means when you show that empathetical understanding, okay, then only it is possible to have that rapport establishment of the each and every member of the group. Okay. So here in the some values we have to observe in this counseling. Maybe it is individual counseling. After completion of my individual counseling, I will explain what are the values we use. Okay. So some of the I already mentioned that group counseling. These are the issues, common issues should be there, and group members, like-minded group members. If it is possible, the age also should be it should be similar. Okay. And in the individual counseling, only the problem is with the individuals. Okay, here maybe in the group counseling or the individual counseling, especially the individual counseling, there are three types of counseling procedures. As I mentioned, basing on the number of persons, there are two types of counseling. One is group counseling or the individual counseling. If members are more, if we give that counseling at a time to a number of clients, that is a group counseling. If our counseling is only a single person, individual, that is the individual counseling. Basing on the number of clients, number of individuals, there are two types of counseling. One is individual counseling, second is a group counseling. Then depending on the counseling procedure, again, there are three types of counseling. One is direct counseling.
Not audible, sir.
Not audible?
No, sir. It is clear, sir.
It's very clear. I think no other complaints from other students. Nearly 60, 70, 75 total participants.
Voice is not audible, sir.
It is audible, sir. It is clear only. I think it is issue from your side.
Yeah. Here in the individual counseling, one is the maybe anxiety and depression. Some of the issues we will discuss in the individual counseling. For example, if it is a depression, anxiety, or stressful conditions. Okay. Any issue of self-esteem. Then on some sort of learning disabilities. Okay. If there is any issue related to their premarital, post-marital issues. Or you can say is a suicidal tendencies also. These are the examples of the individual counseling. Individualized issues. The issues are individualized. Okay. So if that is the issue, if there is a situation, better to go for the individual counseling because some confidential issues may be there in the individual counseling, like premarital and postmarital. So in these issues, better to go for the individual counseling. Here, individual counseling means it's purely a person-centered, you can say, client-centered therapy. As I mentioned, ABC is one sort of technique.
That client, please tell me, sir.
Client-centered.
Okay.
Client-oriented.
Maybe client, but here it is client-centered, person-centered. As in our it is a book, in our this thing, client-centered it is, or person-centered, you can say. Yeah. Person-centered therapy.
Yes, sir.
Or you can say client-centered therapy. Because the therapy, or you can say that counseling procedure is only on the particular client or individual. That is the reason we are calling it as a client-centered therapy or person-centered therapy. Here we have a rapport with the particular person. After establishment of the rapport, and we have to give the individualized counseling, I can say. Say, for example, it's a premarital issue. What are the issue we need to discuss here means, so it is only a particular person's issues. His financial issues we can discuss. His professional issues we can discuss. His attitudes, his aspirations after getting married. Okay, before going to the marriage, they wanted to have some sort of advice, or you can say help from the therapist. So this therapy, this counseling, this individual counseling is only in a particular individual, depending on his profession, depending on his aspirations, his interests, his attitudes, his aspirations, his age, his area of interest. These are all the things we need to keep in mind. Then better to follow the counseling procedures. Okay, here person-centered therapy means, as we mentioned earlier, it's basing on the humanistic approach, humanistic therapy, humanistic theory, you can say. Yeah. In humanistic therapy, self-awareness, self-actualization, self-realization, acceptance. These are the main core concepts of the humanistic theory or humanistic approach. These self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-realization. See, these are all not possible in group counseling. That is the reason we choose this therapeutic procedures in the individual counseling. Okay. So some examples already mentioned in individual counseling, maybe depression, anxiety, stress levels, self-esteem, issue of self-esteem, or any emotional issue of that particular individual, premarital, postmarital, any sexual issues. We are going to discuss all these issues in the next 12th or 13th.
Suicidal tendency.
So these are the issues we have to discuss in the individual counseling. Yeah. Now, these are the two important types of counseling, depending on whether the members are limited, means individual or group members. Then there are other two types of counseling, that is how you follow after starting the counseling procedures. There are again three types of counseling. One is direct counseling. Second is indirect counseling. Third is mixed counseling, or you can say individualized counseling. Direct counseling, indirect counseling, or selective or eclectic or mixed counseling. In the direct counseling, initial stages are first and second stages. Generally, we use this type of direct counseling. Again, here also, depending on the age of the client, depending on his issue. So direct counseling means we need to give some sort of directions from the therapist side. Okay. Here, directions from the counselor side, because the client may not be having that sort of insight on his part. That is the reason initially That is our responsibility to improve the insight. So by giving some directions, we improve the insight of the client. All the directions from the client side, from the therapist side. So this is directional counseling, direct counseling. Second is the non-directional counseling or non-direct counseling. Here, no need of giving any direction from the clients, from the therapist side, because they have the knowledge. They know, but only some options they wanted to choose. For example, if there is any conflict management, conflict issues, there may be any conflicts in their decision, they are not in a position to make the decision. In these issues, like decision, problem of decision making, if there is any conflict resolution issue, so better to go for the non-direct counseling. After establishment of rapport, better to go for the non, because no need of giving the sort of direction from the therapist side, from the counselor side. First one is directional, second is the non-directional. Third one is the eclectic, or you can say mixed counseling. Okay. In directive counseling, all the direction from the therapist side, non-directional counseling, no need of that much of direction from the therapist side. Whereas in the mixed counseling, we need to mix both the direct counseling whenever it is possible, some directions. Okay, so this is known as the selective, elective, eclectic, or mixed counseling. Okay, so these are the types of counseling. Then in all the, maybe it may be directive counseling, non-directive counseling, selective counseling, or individual or the group counseling. The counseling skills are counseling skills are same. Yeah. So here the counseling skills are same. Counseling skills means one is listening. Second is
the most happiest in the world. From bathroom and coming out there.
Sir, once ask them to mute, sir.
Hello.
Sir, please, everyone mute yourself, please.
yeah. So listening. Then second is questioning. Whenever it is needed, we have to question. We ask some questions. Okay, means example, if they are not in a position to explain proper way, better to question. Okay, these questions should be. Again, there are two types of questions, as I mentioned, as we know, there are closed-ended questions and open-ended questions. Closed-ended questions means maybe.
Sir, we can't hear you.
Getting lost of disturbance. Make them mute, sir, if possible.
Yeah. Mute yourself, please.
Sir, మీరు మ్యూట్ చేయొచ్చు సార్.
కనకుండా మనుషులు చంపేయడం చేసుకోవడం అంటే ఆటవిక చర్య అంటే అంతే.
సార్ మీరు మ్యూట్ చేయండి సార్, మీరే చేయండి, అందరిని మ్యూట్ చేయండి.
ఓకే. So here, questions. What are the questions we wanted to ask the client? Mainly the questions are closed-ended questions. Means they are supposed to respond.
తైమూరు ఇచ్చిన రూట్ మీద అది బాగా ఉపయోగపడుతుంది. రైడింగ్ సైకిలరా మీ ఫ్రెండ్స్ చూపించావా? 32 ఫ్రెండ్స్ చూపించా. ఎవరో అమ్మాయి కొట్టిందని వాట్సాప్ లో 10 మెంబర్స్ తీసుకెళ్లి వార్నింగ్ ఇచ్చి వచ్చాడు.
ఆకుల శ్రీనివాసులు గారు మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి సార్. ఆకుల శ్రీనివాసులు గారు మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి
సార్. హోస్ట్ కన్ మ్యూట్ చేశారు. హోస్ట్ కూడా మ్యూట్ చేయొచ్చు సార్. మ్యూట్ చేయమనండి సార్.
అతను ఫోన్ పక్కన పెట్టినట్టుంది సార్, ఒకసారి చూడండి.
అతను ఫోన్ పక్కన పెట్టుకుంటాడు.
అదే అదే
వాటర్ చంపేస్తాను ఉంటాం. పక్కన కూడా కాదు. అది కాదు, అంటే ఎగిరిపోతావు కదా నువ్వా? అట్ట కాదురా, అంటే ఎగిరిపోతావు నువ్వా? ఏ స్పాట్ లో చంపేస్తావా?
You do one thing, I'll inform to the team.
Will
wait for some time.
Inform the host to give you host view, sir. మీకు ఇవ్వనండి హోస్ట్.
It's not possible from my side. It's not costing for me.
మీకు హోస్ట్ ఇవ్వని చెప్పండి సార్. అది వాళ్ళని ఇస్తే మీరు
informed member of times. My boss explain all these things. That is the technical issues. I need to inform to the technical team.
Sir, muted. Srinivas sir, muted.
Yes sir, mute అయిపోయింది. చెప్పండి.
Yeah. So here, questions, always be better to ask the questions of closed-ended, not open-ended questions. Okay. So one is, as I mentioned, it is active listening is the number one. Second is the questioning. Third is the paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means if they are identifying the blind spots. Identifying the blind spots means if they want to tell something, but they may not be in a position to explain in a proper way. One thing is paraphrasing. Ask them or ask the client to explain in a proper way. That's paraphrasing. Another thing is identifying the blind spots. If they think something, but they are not disclosing in a right way. Okay. Or if you identify some sort of blind spots within the client. So this part of identifying the blind spots also one of the major skill in the counseling. Listening, questioning, paraphrasing, then identifying the blind spots, then supporting. In some cases, or you can say encouraging. Encouraging or supporting is needed. That is, you can say emotional supporting. Okay, so as a therapist, as a psychologist, as a counselor, that is our responsibility to support, to share their emotions, encourage to share their emotions. Okay, without any hurdles from our side, without any limitations from our side, or you can say unconditional, no conditions from our side. Unconditional positive, because as I mentioned, in the humanistic theory, Carl Rogers has explained unconditional positive regard. Because the client is having some issue, that is the reason they came to therapist. Okay. No other issues, no conditions amongst. We are not supposed to give any conditions or terms and other conditions like. So unconditional positive regard is an important skill in the counseling. And another one is the empathy, as I mentioned. Empathy means understanding from the other's side, understanding from the other's area, other side. Okay. So one is listening, second is questioning, third is paraphrasing, fourth one is identifying the blind spot, then supporting, then initiating. In some cases, initiating also needed, because in some emotional disturbances, if there is any emotional imbalancing from the client, if they have any emotional distress, they may not be in a position to initiate. They may not be in a position to share their emotion. In that case, we have to initiate, maybe through our communication. The communication may be verbal or non-verbal communication. We have to initiate the actual procedures.
Can you repeat it, sir?
Initiating. Initiating means through your communication, maybe verbal communication or non-verbal communication. The counseling, because of their emotional disturbances, because of their emotional issue, in some cases, some clients, they may not be in a position to share their emotions.
This comes under empathy, or it's a separate skill?
Empathy is different. Empathy is after starting your this, when you are in the stage of rapport establishment. When they enter to the counselor's room, when they enter into the client's area, therapist's room, just they will sit. They won't give any sort of information, initial stages. The initiating in this particular moment, initiating should be from the therapist side.
Okay.
So initiating is nothing but we need to make them to explain what they are not ready to give information.
Yeah.
We need to make them to give information.
That is initiating. Yes, yes.
Because
of their emotional distress.
Yes, sir.
They won't explain anything in the initial state. So initiating from the therapist side is needed in some cases.
Empathy means we have to think
empathy,
as per the
empathy in every session. If you have 45 minutes or 1 hour, at least minimum one session, in every session, we have to show empathy. That's some type of empathetical words we have to use. Empathetical phrase we need to use.
Okay.
For example, in the same case, in the same example, if he is not initiate, if he is not in a position, if she or he is not in a position to start their issues through your verbal communication or maybe non-verbal, at least verbal communication. Yes, you can use some words, some like you are so emotionally distressed. I think you are so disturbed condition. It is nothing but a showing empathy. That means you are there in the client's situation.
Concern, we can say, sir.
Just one example I am giving. For
yes.
example, in this particular case, just I am giving some examples here. The particular case of not initiating from the client side because of a stressful condition, emotional distress. So here also you can use some empathetical words to understand it from their perspective, from their side. That is empathy. Example is that you are so stressful condition. That is the reason you are not in a position to express your emotions. That word, that sentence, if you use, that means you are there in the client side. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just one word if you use in the particular situation, that itself is showing empathy, because he or she is in the condition. That is the reason you are using this type of tools. After entering into your room, after entering into your chamber, they are supposed to explain their emotions. They are supposed to explain their issues. If they are not in a position to explain their issue, being a psychologist, being a counselor, being a therapist, you need to understand the situation from the client's side. Just understanding is not enough. You have to use some words to show your empathetical understanding. Even after entering your chamber, even after entering your room, after 10 minutes, 15 minutes also, if she or he is not giving any information, means that means she is not in a position to open. That is the reason. That is the reason of that condition is their empathetical or their emotional distress. If you, as a psychologist, if as a therapist, if you understand from their perspective, you will do this. You will say this type of words. You are so distressed. I think you are so distressed. That is the reason you are not in a position to explain your issues. Still any doubt? Yeah. Initiating then setting goals. In every psychological counseling, it should be goal oriented. It should be some goals we have to set in the initial stage of counseling. Maybe first and second settings of counseling. First and second settings of counseling, or you can say within 1 or 2 sessions of counseling, better to set some goals. Always the counseling is goal oriented. Okay, these goals, we set these goals with the help of client or caregivers of the client. Mostly the help of the client. If the client is not in a position to identify their issues, better to take the help of the caregivers. If there is any case of mental retardation, if there is any case of learning disabilities, in this particular cases only we will take the help of the caregivers. Otherwise, better to set the goals with the help of the client. If there is any acute issues, any serious issues like suicidal tendencies, schizophrenia, in these cases, in order to set the goals, better to take the help of the caregivers. Okay. Any doubt? Yeah. Next one is the then some suggestions also we have to give in the counseling. We are discussing about the counseling skills. These counseling skills are applicable in both counseling, like individual counseling and the group counseling. Okay. So these are all. The other important thing is that suggestions. These suggestions also we have to give, keeping the various issues of the client, like his or her age and her capacity of understanding, and his or her insight. So depending on the issue, better to give some suggestions to the client. Okay, so these are all the counseling skills. So these counseling skills are common in all the therapeutical procedures. Now, there are some therapeutical procedures. One is, or you can say, therapeutical techniques. One is person-centered therapy. The person-centered therapy, as we already know, this person-centered therapy is the product of the humanistic approach, technique of humanistic approach. We have humanistic approach therapy. Humanistic approach. Okay. Humanistic approach theory. Then technique of the humanistic approach theory is person-centered therapy. Person-centered therapy means always the therapy is related to the particular person. Here in this, as I mentioned, in humanistic theory, self-awareness is main, then self-acceptance, self-realization. Okay, why self-awareness and self-acceptance? Awareness and acceptance. What is the difference between the awareness and acceptance? Means, for example, if we improve the insight of any individual, any person, that means he or she is aware of their issues. Means we have to ask the client to identify their positives and negatives also. Okay, that means creating awareness. So ask the client to improve their positives and to reduce their negatives. When it is possible, if they are aware of their positives as well as the negatives. If they have the awareness, if they have the particular insight. So in order to empower the client, we will ask the client to use their positives so that we are empowering the client. Empowerment also one of the important objectives of the second part is that if they identify their negatives, okay, so we will ask them to change their problematic behaviors. Means if they have their awareness, if they have their insight, if they, first of all, they need to be aware of these things. Second stage is the acceptance. They need to accept it. Yes, my behavior is not acceptable by the others. It's a problematic behavior. It is undesirable behavior. Okay, then only they will be in a position to modify their behavior. First one is creating self-awareness. Second is the acceptance. Then third one is the acceptance. Third one is realization. Yes, they need to realize. Yes, I need to change my behavior. This is a problematic behavior. I have to accept. Then after acceptance, realization. Yes, I need to change this behavior. Yes. These are all related to the self-actualization. These are related to the person-centered therapy. The base, the theoretical base of this therapy The theoretical base of person-centered therapy is the humanistic approach. In humanistic approach, topmost priority is given to the individual. That is the reason we will say it is a individualized counseling or person-centered, client-centered therapy. Why the humanistic approach is giving that much of importance to the individual means Carl Rogers believed that all individuals have their potentialities, their own potentialities. But the problem is that though they have the potentialities, but they are not in a position to identify their potentialities. As a psychologist, as a counselor, as a therapist, that is our responsibility to create awareness, or you can say create self-awareness to identify their potentialities. Once they identify their potentialities, automatically they will utilize those potentialities, those competencies, you can say, those skills, you can say. As a psychologist, as a counselor, as a therapist, that is our part to improve the insight of the client. Once they have that insight, automatically they will be in a position to utilize their potentialities and they will reduce their problematic behaviors. Got it? So this is person-centered therapy, or you can say client-centered therapy, or individualized therapy. Then second strategy, or you can say second technique of this counseling is REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy. This rational emotive behavior therapy is based on the psychoanalytical theory of the Sigmund Freud. Okay, here these emotions are irrational emotions. If there is any irrational emotions, if you analyze their thought process, if you use psychoanalytical system, psychoanalytical approach, what is there in the unconscious state of, what is the unconscious state of the individual? So if you analyze that, so you can easily identify whether their emotions are rational emotions or irrational emotions. Okay. So here in REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, we use if there is any irrational belief systems, irrational emotions in their thought process, in their mindset. If we analyze their mind, or you can say if you use psychoanalysis, you can, if you identify, you can easily ask the client to change their irrational thoughts to rational system, rational way. Okay. Another one is the CRT, Cognitive Restructuring Therapy, or you can say cognitive therapy. This cognitive restructuring therapy, or you can say cognitive therapy, is based on cognitive theory by Jean Piaget. Okay, there are 4 stages of cognition, or you can say cognitive developmental theory. One is the sensory motor stage. Second is the pre-operational stage. Third is concrete operational stage. Fourth is the formal operational stage. Okay, so here this cognitive therapy means cognitive restructuring. We need to restructuring their thought process. If they analyze in a different way, if they analyze in the negative way, better to change their analysis from negative to positive. If they understand, if the client understanding is a negative side, or you can say negative understanding, negative thoughts, better to restructuring their negative thoughts to the positive. That is known as the cognitive restructuring technique, cognitive restructuring therapy. Okay, then another technique of this counseling is behavior therapy, or you can say behavior modification therapy. Behavior modification therapy is depending on based on conditioning theories. We have some conditioning, or you can say classical conditioning theory and the operant conditioning theories, social learning theories. Okay, there are some learning theories. We have nearly some 5 to 6 learning theories, but behavior modification program, or you can say behavior modification technique or behavior therapy, the base, the origin of behavior modification therapy or behavior therapy is the conditioning theories, classical conditioning theory and operant conditioning theory. Mostly operation conditioning theory we use. The base, the main origin of this behavior modification technique is the operant conditioning theory by Skinner. Okay, here in this behavior modification means modifying the behavior from undesirable to desirable. For example, if there is any problem with their children, so their behavior is not up to the mark, not acceptable, not desirable. Here we are supposed to change their undesirable behavior, modify the undesirable behavior to the desirable behavior. That means they are supposed to learn something from the caregivers or from the therapist. Okay, so behavior modification program, or you can say behavior modification technique, the base of the behavior modification technique is the operant conditioning theory. If we find any undesirable behaviors, any problematic behaviors, better to modify those behaviors so that they learn something from the caregivers as from the therapist. Learning means, as we know, there are so many, there are some 3 or 4 definitions of learning, but one important definition of learning is that modification of behavior through training and experience. Here, our program of behavior modification means we are train up the child. We are providing some sort of training to the client to modify their behavior. It's nothing but learning. One definition of learning is the modification of behavior through training and experience. If we train to change their behavior, to modify their behavior, they'll learn something. It's a learning process. Okay, so here if they change their behavior, we will provide some sort of positive reinforcers, negative positive reinforcers, so that they will further change their behavior, they modify their behavior. Any doubt here? Yeah. Next one is the so after completion of this, another important theory is Gestalt therapy, or you can say Gestalt therapy. What is Gestalt means? Gestalt means Gestalt is the German term. It's a German term, means wholeness. integrated. On the whole, there are some three important Gestalt psychologists. One is Wertheimer, Kohler, and Kocher. These are known as the Gestalt.
Assist చేయడం sir.
Yes.
Assist.
Gestalt therapy. The term Gestalt is derived from the as hello. What's your doubt?
Yeah, clear sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So whole means if you think in some issues, if you think in a different way, you can't get the solution. You can't aware of the particular issue. On the whole, if you integrate various parts of the particular issue, then only it is easy to get awareness, to understand that particular issue. So here, Gestalt therapy is the therapy that gives the whole picture to the client. Okay, for example, if the individual is not in a position to identify their own abilities, here we create various positives in the part of client. For example, that they are able to understand their own environment or not. Okay, because of their not awareness of their own environment, they are not utilizing their potentialities. Here, we ask them to see various issues and ask them to coordinate all these issues, ask them to think in a holistic manner so that they'll get some ideas. These ideas also, they use the word of sudden flash of idea. When we improve the insight of the client, sudden flash of idea they'll get. In the Gestalt therapy, Gestalt theory, they use the Gestalt psychology, the Gestaltists. They use the term of sudden flash of idea. As individuals, as a therapist, as individual, as a client, if he or she is in the vulnerable conditions, if they are in the emotional distress, in some cases, in some stressful condition, they may not be in a position to identify their own abilities. Here, if we improve their insight, suddenly they'll get the idea, I am not utilizing my issues. I am not utilizing my potentialities. That is the reason I am in this particular stressful condition. Though I have so much of opportunities, but it's somewhere I am lacking behind of identifying these potentialities. So that is the reason they use the word of sudden flash of idea. If we or if the client understand their various issues in a holistic manner, their different things in the holistic manner, definitely they will be in a position to have a solution from their perspective. So this is Gestalt therapy. Because though they have so many chances, so many opportunities, but because of their stressful conditions, because of their depression, if they are in a depressive mood, the client may not be in a position to understand their potentialities. So if they think if they coordinate all the various opportunities, then only they will be in a position to identify their potentialities, or they will make their utilize their potentialities. So this is the Gestalt therapy. So today we discuss about the individual counseling and group counseling, some examples of individual group counseling, and the main counseling skills of counseling. Maybe the counseling may be a group, and the counseling may be individualized counseling, and some therapeutical procedures. Okay. And some advantages and disadvantages of both, like individual and group counseling. Individual counseling is the main advantage of the individual counseling is it's easy to get the emotional attachment in the individual counseling. Okay. So here the counselor also have some advantages of giving individualized counseling, because you can easily work on the only the individualized person, that person. Okay, then because only one client in the individual counselor, only one client will be there, so the counselors focus totally on the particular individual. That is another important advantage of the individualized counseling. And getting the solution also, it is a time frame counseling procedure in individual counseling, because depending on the individual, or you can say individuals time schedules and the therapeutic time schedules, within the time within the time only we will complete the counseling procedures. Okay. Same way in the group counseling, some advantages are there. Means to large, it may be maybe 10 to 15 or 20 members group. If there is any common issue of these individuals, it's easy to complete that issues with the group. Okay, but there should be a common issue. Okay, so within this group, whatever the common issues that can be addressed, those issues can be addressed within the time framework. Okay, so but the object is always, there are some disadvantages also there in the group counseling. If the objectives are not, or you can see if the goals are not set in a proper way, we need to take all the consideration of the other individuals in the group, then only it is easy to address the issues, to set the goals and address the issues. Okay.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, in the group counseling process, is there also the role of a counselor? Does it also function as a facilitator? Because
so facilitating is the one important skill of counseling. In any counseling, maybe the group or maybe the individual counseling, facilitating is important. Or you can say initiating, facilitating, listening, empathizing. These are all the common skills, common counseling skills in any counseling process.
Okay.
What
sir,
does
also
facilitation in psychology mean, generally? Facilitating
means you are giving room to, you are providing opportunity to share their emotions. Our work is a facilitator.
Okay. So another word for counselor is a facilitator, or is it a part of?
Okay. Still any doubts? We have only 1 minute left. Anyway, if you have any doubts, you please ask your doubts clearly. Okay. So some of you are not, some voice is not audible. Okay. Anyway, you are welcome to ask the questions in any session, not only in this particular session, but the next class also you can ask.
Sir, disadvantages, can you explain, sir, once? Disadvantages of individual and group counseling.
See, the individual counseling is, the disadvantage of the individual counseling is that here, if the individual is not in a position to share their emotions, if there is any emotional distress, okay, so here individualized counseling, because he or she has to respond, he or he has to express their emotions. But whereas in the group counseling, if the emotional problem is there with individual, he or she is in the group, no? One way or other way, he may be in a position to share their emotion within the group. So that overall emotional distress will be low in the group counseling.
So there's also a chance that the emotional distress can get bigger, right? So if the individual is shy, then in a group, the emotional distress can also get larger, right?
Yeah. See, advantages are there in the both counseling, like individual counseling and the group counseling. And see, for example, individual counseling, the main advantage is that some confidential issues, they easily discuss in the individualized counseling. But whereas in the group counseling, it's not so easy to share their confidential issues.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, today morning we had a class of personality, sir. In that, sir has told like 16 PF different tests, sir. So on the so morning means we are assessing first the personality. Then after that we are understanding which type of theory we should apply and which technique we have to follow to get the goal of results, sir.
So
this is how the process means. What this is the process.
So directly, no need of using any test.
Sir.
What the first class told, I don't know, but my suggestion is that in the counseling process, initially no need of using any tool, and as a counselors, we are not supposed to, as a counselors, you are not supposed to use any for your examination point of view, for learning purpose, for a subject wise, you can use these tools.
Sure.
Okay, but 16 PF, what are the first? We have so many personality tests, like projective techniques, non-projective techniques. Like as I mentioned earlier, again, I'll discuss those things also. For example, word association test, sentence completion test, 16 PF. These are all the personality tests, IPDE, International Personality Disorder Examination. These are the personality tests. Even the projective techniques of TAT, RIBT, Rorschach-Inkblot test, and child test. Okay, teammate appreciation test, child appreciation test. These are all the various tools to assess the personality. In IPT also, we will assess the personality, whether the personality is the cluster A personality, cluster B, or cluster C. Okay, it's a counseling process. First of all, as I mentioned, establishment of the rapport. If you have any observations of the client personality, if you observe the client, as I mentioned, first of all, observation. Then if there is needed, better to go for the tool. That tool also, authentication of tool, using the tool also important. Directly can't use any tools like.
Okay.
In here, for examination point of view, for your subject sake, you can use the tools.
Okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any doubts?
Thank you, sir.
Next class also. No issue, no problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I think it's a lunch break.
Yes, sir. It's lunchtime.
Yeah.
Class was good, sir. We understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And better to yeah. If you have any doubts, you can. No, absolutely no problem. Any issue, any question you can ask in the next class.
Okay, sir.
Okay, next
Sir,
class.
I think.
Yeah.
I think we can better understand if we study once before attending the class.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. Before class, better to read well. So next, in the 12th unit, we will start counseling techniques, the same counseling techniques, then from verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and some other techniques like systematic decentralization, asset training, and then 12th and 13th better we will complete the 12th and 13th. 13th is some marital, sexual, family, and women related issues. These both is possible. We will discuss in the next class. Okay.
Thank you, sir.